10th, 2026 meeting of the Blair Mayor and City Council. I am Mindy Rump, the Mayor of Blair, and I am pleased that you have joined us this evening. This is a public meeting and you are part of the process. I will do everything that I can to make you feel comfortable and make sure that your voice is heard. I encourage you to participate, share your thoughts, and ask questions. We do have several rules to help us proceed with the meeting, and I ask that you please keep them in mind. Please turn off your cell phones. If you take a call, step outside the chamber. When you do wish to speak, simply raise your hand and I will recognize you and you can come forward to the podium. Brenda Wheeler, our city clerk, must record who you are, so please state your name, spell your last name, and state your address. If you forget, don't worry about it, we'll remind you. Keep your remarks brief, about 3 minutes, so that others have an opportunity to speak. And please direct your comments to either myself, the City Council, or the city staff. A copy of the Open Meetings Act has been posted by both exits, and we will begin this evening with the roll call of members. Banner?
Present.
Alton?
Here.
Long?
Here.
Wolf?
Here.
Willis?
Here.
Clark?
Here.
Fletcher?
Yep.
Highfield? All members present except Highfield. Thank you. Will you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 4, approval of the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please register your vote. All council members present voting aye. Motion passes. Item number 5, we will have the swearing in and badge pinning of new Blair police officers, Christopher Perkins and Randall Cruz. Good evening.
Evening, Mayor and City Council. Before we do this, I just wanted to make an introduction of our newest officers, and this is Officer Chris Perkins, Officer Randy Cruz. Officer Perkins comes from us. He just recently retired from the Omaha Police Department. It's been over 26 years? 27 years with the Omaha Police Department. He retired as a sergeant. We worked together back in our investigations days on some cases. We worked with the child exploitation and human trafficking cases back in the day, so we kind of have a little bit of history. And Chris had reached out to me and said, hey, Chief, I'm looking to retire from Omaha. I'm in the drop program, but I'm ready to go. Look for some other opportunities. Can I apply? I said, come on up, and it's worked out great. Officer Cruz was a deputy with Boyd in Knox County for about 4 years. He took a couple of years off from law enforcement. His family made a move, but he's been looking to get back in, and so we're just excited to bring some real experience to the police department. We thank you for letting us have those officers so we can help keep Blair safe and our community great. And right now we're going to swear him in. All right, gentlemen, repeat after me. I state your name. You solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska.
Do you solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska,
and the ordinance of the City of Blair, Nebraska, against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and the ordinance of the City of Blair, Nebraska, against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and perform faithfully and impartially the duties of police officer according to law and to the best of my ability, so help me God.
and perform faithfully and impartially the duties of a police officer according to law and to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations. And now we're going to have Randy's wife, Caitlin, and Chris's wife, Angie, come up and pin the badge on them. Now turn around and take a picture. I'm up again.
You are up again for a presentation of the International Association of Chiefs of Police.
So my boss asked if he could come up and he wants to start this off, kick it
Okay.
off.
Just some introductory comments. So Phil Green, City Administrator, so thank you very much. And officers, great to have you on staff and glad to have you with us. Just wanted to remind all of you that even when I first came back and we knew that there was going to be a transition of our police chief, one of the things that I had recommended was that we do this staffing study. I felt like it was very, very important for you and elected officials going forward in the future to have some real specific details and data put together that you could contemplate. Everyone kind of has a gut feeling on how things are going in life, but oftentimes those gut feelings are based upon just events that have happened over the last week or two, maybe something unique that has happened or hasn't happened to you. This is just one of those areas in municipal government that we frankly can't get wrong. I think it's very, very important that you wrestle with the kind of professional details that the chief's going to be going over tonight. So I highly recommend that you consider this. Again, there's no action to be taken tonight other than just receive this and place it on file. But as you know, budget season's coming, and we'll continue to have some important conversations about these staffing positions. So, Chief.
Thanks, boss.
Before you begin, Chief, could I have somebody make a motion to receive and place this on file?
So moved. Second.
We're placing on file the IACP Staffing Study Report of the Blair Police Department. Please register your vote. Motion passes. You have the floor, Chief.
Thank you, ma'am. As Phil said, why was the study conducted? And it was requested due to anticipating a leadership transition with the chief of police incoming. Where do you go to do a staffing study like this? There's really no better place than to the International Association of Chiefs of Police. This is what they do in addition to, I gotta remember this, it makes a little bit of noise. In addition to just offering professional services for police executives across the nation and internationally. They have whole departments that do research and they look at best practices and they look at statistics, and they really dug down. And I kind of came in late to the game. I came in the end of April, 1st of May, and they had already been working on the project for several months. So I'm coming in, I was playing catch up and learning the department at the same time, but I quickly, got my feet wet and understood really quick what we needed and how we needed to prepare for the future. The goal, of course, of this report is to ensure that police services align with community needs and growth. I'll mention growth a lot, and not every time when I mention growth am I meaning adding people to the city. There's probably one of the biggest takeaways I took from this report is while Blair is growing, our service demand is growing at a much faster rate. And our service demand is the calls that these officers go to, the reports that they take, the hours that they spend dealing with mental health cases, and just the day-to-day operations of the Blair Police Department. The City of Blair engaged IACP to conduct an administrative and operational review of the Blair Police Department. I'm sorry, I got to keep up with that for you. The study evaluated patrol staffing levels, workload distribution, organizational structure, and operational effectiveness with focus on aligning resources to current and future community needs. They went back several years and they looked the last 3 to 5 years of data. They looked through our computer-aided dispatch, our dispatch records, NIBRS, that's the Nebraska Incident-Based Report System. Every time we take a police report, we put it into the system, it gets reported to NIBRS. So when you do Wikipedia on Blair or some other city and you look at the crime stats, a lot of that's based off of the NIBRS reports from the different states that you're looking at. IACP also talked to most of our officers and civilian staff. They had was it about an hour-long phone interview for you guys that were on the phone? About an hour-long interview. The main person that did this was a retired police chief from, I think, one of the Carolinas, Chief Joe Price, and talked to our officers and talked to our staff and got a an understanding. That's how they were able to help put this report together. They looked at all our SOPs, our workflow, how we take reports, how we put it through the system, how we process arrests, how we do all those things, just our day-to-day operations, and all of our written directives. The community safety context is what they titled it, and these are just some bullet points from that 40-page report that they gave. But Blair is a low-crime city compared to our statistics and compared to other cities. We have relatively low crime, particularly violent crime. Not to say we're without crime, because we have job security. There's enough for us to do out there. In fact, there's more at our staffing levels than we have out there to do to be able to provide the service that we really should be for our community. Population is stable, but we know it's growing, and there's growth projected. But our calls of service have increased 17% since 2022. That's almost 20%. At the same level, when I started here, we had 17 officers. I found an org chart from 2014 where we had 17 officers. There's been service demand increase, there's been population increase, but we haven't increased personnel. I've talked about it before for you. It takes about a year to grow a cop if you hire somebody fresh. This is why we've been really fortunate getting these lateral officers from other agencies. You don't have to teach them how to be a cop. That's the hard part. You got to get hired and go through the process. That's a couple months, 2 to 3 months. You got to go to the academy. That's 4 months. You got to go through field training. That's another 3 months. It's about a year before you're out on the street providing services. What is driving the issues here? Workload growth exceeds population growth. More service demand without matching staff growth, and I mentioned that. Officers are operating largely in a reactive mode, and what that means is we're not able to spend a whole lot of time being proactive, whether it's proactive enforcement or proactive engagement. And that's really where your quality of life issues, when it's proactive enforcement, the jake breaking offense complaints that we get, the speeding complaints. When we don't have time to do that, people call in, they call the mayor's hotline, they email the city clerk, they're going to Blair gossip, and they're talking about all these things, but because we're running from call to call, we don't have time to do those quality of life things, so we're almost entirely reactive. Less time for proactive community engagement. We've really tried to step our game up since I've come here with our community engagement, and hopefully you've seen it, but we need to be out, we need to be doing that more. We don't need to be just seen as the people that locking people up, because we have to do that. That's a necessary evil of the job, but it's also our job to be part of this community, to be a strong supporter of this community, to be out with the people. Increased reliance on overtime. We've seen that. When I got here, I know I talked to you how we're not going to have one officer working on a shift alone anymore. We can't do that. We just can't do that. We've got to move on. We have to bite the bullet and move on and get away, because it's a safety issue, it's a liability issue for the city. So I've made that not happen. Increased burnout because of we're having to cover shifts, because we have, sometimes it's military deployments. We've had a couple injuries recently that put some people out. We've had people covering a lot of shifts, and it's that work-life balance. It was a month after I'd been here, and it was Gateway Days weekend, and I said, is Cody here tonight? No, Cody's not here. I was talking to Cody, and he just looked worn down. I said, Cody, you okay? He goes, yeah, Chief, this is my 14th day in a row working. We can't have that. 14 12-hour shift in a row that he was working. And that's a lot of overtime that we're paying out, and it's damaging to his wellness and his health. We can't have that. And retention issues. When we have good work-life balance, we don't have people trying to look at the fence for other jobs. And we spend a lot of time, we invest a lot of money and a lot of time in making police officers, and we want to keep them. Key findings of this, some percentages and breakdowns here. Patrol officers are operating largely in a reactive mode. So 54% of their time they're responding to calls. 38% of the time it's administrative duties. And administrative duties could be anything from report writing, locking up the cemetery, locking up the park bathrooms, station watch checks, things that aren't enforcement type activities, doing vehicle inspections, UTV inspections, doing all those administrative type things, which leaves about 2% of their time for real solid proactive and proactive enforcement and engagement. Some of the things in the report, in the executive summary that I gave you, they identified early on. We took care of those right away. So the supervisory command staffing is insufficient. This is one of the critical findings of the report. They talked about the one patrol shift that operated without a dedicated sergeant. Sergeant Hathaway's been promoted. We fixed that issue. But they also talked about a need for additional command officer, and that's one of those things that I recognized really quickly. We have an org chart that's a straight line up and down when I first started. We had no division of command. Our span of control was crazy. Captain Lyon was one captain, and he was running the entire department while the chief was trying to do chief stuff. You saw this happen last budget year with the city, with the deputy directors coming in, with Phil burning the candle at both ends as he always does, needing to allow some time for him to be the boss and to be able to run the business of Blair, where I've come in and I've made two divisions within the department. We really needed to have a split span of control. So we have our operations division, which is run by Captain Lyon. That's primarily our uniform patrol. And then we have our operation support is what I'm calling it. And that's where our detectives are. That's where our records unit is. That's where property and evidence is. That's where our community engagement is. I'm running that, and I'm also your chief. So I'm the direct supervisor of the detectives, the records unit folks. We need another captain to be able to run that side of the house, so your chief can be the chief full time. Key findings continued. Staffing gaps currently being filled by overtime. We're spent a lot of overtime just trying to cover shifts. People gone, people on military. People need time off. You've got to make that happen. So we're spending a lot of time. These guys are working tirelessly and working a lot. I worked Saturday night. What was the last time I stayed up past midnight? I pulled an all-nighter because we had to get some people off. So 3 o'clock was rough. It was rough. Limited access to CAD records, and we talked about we had kind of a strained relationship between Douglas County 911 and Blair PD. The hero in that is Tom White, Tom White, IT director. He's really made some close ends in there. So all the data that we were not being able to get, we got because of Tom White and the connections that he made down there. He and I went down to Douglas County and they nerded out and they loved him. And now all I got to do is pick up the phone and say, hey, I need this report and I need these stats. And a day later, I got what I need. So that's been taken care of. Our current operations reality. Officers must balance emergency response, paperwork, administrative duties, and community presence. Current staffing levels of 2 officer minimum staffing leaves very limited time for proactive policing, and many calls for service require, in fact, most of our calls require 2 officers. As an officer safety issue, we go to a disturbance call, we go to a crash, we go to any kind of emergency call, we got to send at least 2 officers. Sometimes it's just 2 officers that are working. Proactive time is essential for crime prevention and positive community engagement. And I'm just going to go through these real quick. These were the critical, they rated them critical, high risk, and then medium. And these were the recommendations by ICP. Create the 4th sergeant position. That's done. Improve accurate access to all the data that we need. That's done. Increase patrol staffing by 3 officers. And when they talk about this in this report, this is where we're kind of foreshadowing the budget coming up. This is based off, we have currently 22 authorized sworn at our police department. Chris and Randy make 19. We are doing interviews next week with 2 lateral officers, so that would put us at 21. And then hopefully by the end of this budget year, we'll have our 22nd officer hired, at least at some point, whether it's somebody that needs to go to the academy or it's another lateral that we can get. But increasing that number by 3, and then one of those being a captain. To conduct the workload analysis and compare against personnel allocations annually, and a lot of that is just us taking the data that we're using, evidence-based policing, using our stats to find out how we best deploy our officers, what hours we work, what shifts we work, how we divide the city up into responsibilities of beats and beat integrity, and I'll talk about that in a second. And adopt and implement the IC principles of leadership. A lot of that has to do with professional growth and development, and that's something that we've been working on internally here in the department with the supervisors. We're doing it also at the higher organization level with our Team 1. So really trying to build future leaders, succession planning for each of our departments. That's important. You know, leave it better than when you got there, and leave it, you know, help raise those people up to be our next leaders. Our medium priority things were, I talked about beats. They call it geographical accountability in sectors and beats. These guys don't want to hear it because they like to be at large, but it's something we have to do. And that's more of an operational plan. The county does it because they're much bigger, but one deputy is responsible for one section of the county during their shift. We're looking at our stats, and we're looking at beat responsibility. You take some ownership in your beat, in your assignment or your sector. Get to know it, get to know the people. Take some time to get to know that. It's great for community engagement. It's great for crime prevention. Crime mapping systems, tools for internal use, and a wellness program, which the city's on top of. But we need to look at that internally. We need to watch out for that burnout. So the cost of inaction, escalating overtime dependency, reduced service resiliency, officer fatigue, morale issues, retention and recruitment issues, erosion of proactive crime prevention and community engagement, reduced supervisory and command oversight, diminished ability to support future growth, and deferred higher costs shifted to future budgets. Higher recruiting and training costs. Every year, training goes up. Every year, recruiting costs go up. Costs 10% more every year to outfit a cop, outfit a cruiser, to buy a cruiser, all those costs. The benefits of investment are consistent supervision and accountability, greater organizational stability, improved service reliability and response flexibility, better use of data, reduced overtime reliance, improved proactive prevention and engagement, increased morale, less officer burnout, strengthened community trust, reduced risk of liability, and improved recruitment competitiveness. And just some thoughts for you as city council members, for you to consider moving forward when we talk about this again later. Are our current service levels sustainable? Is it what the community needs? Is it what the community wants? You have to define the acceptable risk tolerance, officer safety response, reliability, our city's liability exposure, and continued rising costs of government shifts with overtime. These recommendations are supported by IECP, so you're not going to get any better recommendations. Balance in short-term cost versus long-term stability. And does the action show fiscal foresight and strengthen community trust? When you have the data to support and you're making those informed decisions, the transparency allows for trust. Inaction could defer accountability, and future council inherits more expensive problems in the future. And I sent that all to you, so I'm going to kind of skip that part. I just want to leave a little opportunity for if any of you have any questions. We answered a couple of questions during the police fire committee, but I know I talked a lot. I think it's really important. I think it's important for you all to hear the data and see it. I know we're in a much better spot than we were even 10 months ago when I got here. And it, by no means, it's not because of the hard work of these folks back there. So, what questions? Come on.
Keep up the good work with what you got, and hopefully we can remedy things in the future.
Okay.
Chief,
Kinsey. I know that when I read the report that you sent us with all the information, I was quite impressed with the depth and scope of the information that was available there. Everything from maybe demographics of the city, projections, so on and so forth, plus various police and matters. So that was fantastically done. I think it's a great roadmap for you guys to take action from. I only wish that more people in the community, I know it's kind of lengthy, but would look that over so they could gain a better understanding and appreciation for exactly what our police department has had to deal with over previous years, and what your vision for making it even better for this community is. So I want to commend you with the actions you've already achieved in following this plan, and encourage you to continue that effort, and I'm very impressed.
Thanks. Well, hearing nothing else, I'm gonna get out of your hair. Let's make this a quick meeting tonight.
Thank you, Chief. Item number 7, consider resolution 2026-18 approving an amendment to the employee agreement between the City of Blair and the Chief of Police terminating the vehicle stipend. Ms. Ferrari.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So before you tonight, we do have an addendum for the employee agreement that we entered into with Chief Kinsey when he started. If you recall, a few months ago, you did approve a vehicle for the chief to use for patrolling the city and also attending different requirements of his job. And so with that coming forward, the committee did ask that we look at this agreement, and Chief Kinsey is in full support of removing that vehicle stipend because he does have that the ability now to use a vehicle provided by the city. Any questions?
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Having none? Oh. You can't take that with you.
I took the clicker.
Police and Fire Committee.
We did meet on this evening and discussed this at some length, and I think we were both in agreement this is a good thing to move forward with.
Would you like to introduce the
I
resolution?
would ask. I would like to make a motion to introduce resolution 2026-18.
Resolution number 2026-18 was introduced by Councilmember Paulson, approving an amendment to the employee agreement between the City of Blair and the Chief of Police terminating the vehicle stipend.
I would like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2026-18 as presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2026-18. Please register your vote. All council members present, voting aye. Motion passes. Item number 8, we will have a presentation of Pulse Point with Bennington Fire Assistant Fire Chief Chad Nixon and American Heart Association Community Impact Director Amy Roberts. Welcome and good evening. I have seen your presentation before. It is excellent.
Yes.
It's a wonderful program, and we're very excited you're here.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for having us here.
State your name, sorry.
Oh, yes. So I'm Amy Roberts with the American Heart Association.
Mayor and Council, I'm Chad Nixon. I'm the Assistant Fire Chief with Bennington Fire and Rescue.
Thank you.
And we do have a video to start off. So we would like to share a video just to illustrate the need and why we move forward with this initiative of Pulse Point. Perfect. So that was just a little preview of what Pulse Point is and the impact that it can have in a community. But I'll first start off by laying out kind of the need and why we saw the benefit of having Pulse Point in the Tri-County area. So in the United States every year, there's around 350,000 out-of-hospital cardiac arrests. And unfortunately, the bystander CPR rate in the United States is only about 40%. So 40% of the time someone is responding to someone in cardiac arrest. And for every minute without CPR, a person's chance of surviving decreases by 10%. So minutes truly matter in a cardiac arrest situation. And also it matters where you live. If you live in an urban area, the response times are going to be a little bit better versus a rural area where you might have a volunteer department and those response times will be a bit longer. But we know that if someone starts CPR immediately, that can double or triple a person's chance of survival. Also wanted to briefly highlight the difference between cardiac arrest and heart attack. I know sometimes those terms can be used interchangeably, but they are in fact different, and there is a different response based on the situation. So in a heart attack situation, that's a circulation or a plumbing problem. There's a blockage in an artery to the heart. And in some cases, that individual is still conscious, still breathing. They may have symptoms for hours or days. Whereas in a cardiac arrest, that's an electrical malfunction of the heart, and that person immediately becomes unconscious and needs immediate help. And that's where CPR is super crucial because in that situation, CPR, especially chest compressions, can continue to pump the blood through the body. When someone first collapses, they do still have some oxygen left in their blood. So if someone can begin chest compressions immediately, that's pumping that oxygenated blood out to the vital organs and buying time until people like Chad arrive and provide that additional assistance. Another important thing too, mentioning the electrical issue with a cardiac arrest, that's why having an AED is so important, an automatic external defibrillator, because that AED can be used to shock a person's heart back into rhythm and get that electrical pulse back in place. So one tool or one way that we can help increase the bystander CPR rate in the Tri-County area is through Pulse Point. So the Pulse Point Foundation, it's a nonprofit, a national nonprofit, so there's communities across the country that are using this app, and there's 2 tandem apps. One is the Pulse Point Respond, which Chad will go into more detail, and then Pulse Point AED. And Pulse Point AED, a key thing there is that it is free, there's universal adoption, so that can be used across the country, and anyone can register an AED and use that app. And then with that app, there can be an option of having AED needed alerts. So if someone were to register their app, they could be alerted if there were a cardiac arrest nearby, and they could bring that AED to the arrest. Yeah, and I think now I will pass it over to Chad to go into more detail.
Thank you. So, as Amy was mentioning, these CPR needed alerts, this one here is what it's referencing is the AED needed response. So this is kind of a new portion of Pulse Point and what they have to offer. And what I see the benefit to this is in smaller communities where we have a lot of residential populations and things is being able to place these AEDs like you see in this picture. There are weatherproof, very smart cabinets and stuff that these AEDs can be placed in. And what this allows is then subscribers in that neighborhood to subscribe to this AED, and that would get them an alert to their neighbor. So the parts, I'll try to get to that point here, is so Pulse Point, there's 2 different apps. I think that's coming up here. So basically someone calls 911, says someone's in cardiac arrest, they're not breathing. Hopefully our telecommunicator CPR trained dispatchers are asking a couple of questions. Are they awake and are they breathing normally? And if they're not, they'll start to coach that caller in CPR. So ideally, they're taking that call, they're dispatching out at the same time.
Pulse Point Respond is linked directly into our Motorola CAD systems. So the reason that we chose Washington, Douglas, and Sarpy County is obviously because all the CAD systems are one. So that was, we've had a few other counties ask, well, how come we couldn't get involved? Well, it was because their CADs are not the same. So when they get that 911 alert, basically that zaps it out to our phone, to the Red Responder app, which everybody can download, and we'll talk about that here in a second too. And hopefully what that's doing is locating the nearest either bystanders to perform CPR, and it's also alerting those pro and registered responders like firefighters, paramedics. Chief Kinsey's actually sent me his roster, so his officers have downloaded the Pulse Point app and are able to get those notifications when there's a nearby CPR. On top of that, what it does, like you're seeing here in the picture, as we build the Pulse Point AED side, which is the yellow app, this is where we can locate the nearest AEDs in our communities. So the call to action here would be any businesses, even private residences, things in this community can go on to the Pulse Point yellow app, the Pulse Point AED app, and they can upload, just like you see here, take a picture of it, and it gives us our nearby AEDs. So that's tied directly to the CAD system. So when they start to give CPR instructions, they can also say, hey, your nearest AED is right outside the council chambers in a box. You can go grab it, or someone can grab it and bring that AED right to the patient's side. So hopefully the building the Pulse Point AED app will also allow us to identify some of those AED deserts, as we call those, places where we feel like more AEDs can be injected into our communities. So that's one of the other initiatives that this collaborative has kind of gone into, is trying to identify where more AEDs can be located. I know police cruisers, sheriff's deputies, those kinds of things are also carrying those. So we're trying to get as many of those injected into our community as we possibly can. This is just an example of a map where it shows, and on here, as you see, like the numbers are basically how many AEDs are located in those general areas and things. So the more we can build the Pulse Point AED app, the more co-locates with the Pulse Point Respond app, and we can have those available. So the two Pulse Point apps, like we say, when you go to either the Google Play or the App Store, you can download Pulse Point Respond or Pulse Point AED. We suggest that you download both. And the Pulse Point AED app, what we tell people is use it when you're going on vacation, or even just going to the grocery store, to Walmart, to wherever, and try to build this registry as big as we can get it. And then through that, we can also identify where there's needs for more AEDs and throughout the community. The Pulse Point Respond app, so I guess the collaborative, what I'll touch on just a little bit, the Tri-County Collaborative came together just over a year ago to try to bring Pulse Point to the 3-county region. And our goal with that, I was a small part of that, was to be able to have more bystander CPR and trained responders getting to those cardiac arrests quicker. Like Amy mentioned, even in the Omaha metro area, Omaha Fire and Douglas County, only about 40% of the time is there bystander CPR being performed prior to EMS arrival. The metric that we kind of bounced this off of was Lincoln Fire, which currently has a bystander CPR rate of greater than 70%. So 70% of the time they have someone doing bystander CPR prior to EMS arrival down there, and their cardiac arrest survival data is much higher than most of the nation. So that's what we're trying to build here throughout the Tri-County area, Sarpy, Douglas, and Washington County. So our goal with that, I guess we can see, if it's not crucial if this one doesn't play. But.
This is Joel. He just suffered a sudden cardiac arrest. He isn't the only one. Today, 1,000 people in the United States will have the same experience. Time is now critical. As a call is placed to emergency dispatch, the clock continues to tick. Emergency responders are several minutes away. Unfortunately, several
So I think the point that I want to make towards this video is you do not have to necessarily be a CPR trained responder or trained in CPR at all. You just need to be able to have the willingness to download the app and be willing to go help your neighbor in a time of need. So Pulse Point Respond, I think is there? My clicker ran out of batteries.
This is Joel.
We met. All right, that's okay. We'll move on so we, in the essence of time. So I guess my call to action for the city and for the county in Washington County is just to try to get as many people to download both apps as possible and go on there and say that you're willing to respond in the event of a cardiac arrest. Anybody in this room, hopefully City Public Works, those kinds of things, like we said, police officers and things. We're just trying to build as many people as possible to download the app and be willing to use it so that we can increase our chances of having cardiac arrest survival patients in our communities. Just the other night, you can skip that one. Go to the call to action. There you go. Thanks. Perfect. CHI Center, just the other night, Saturday night, there was an event at the CHI Center. There was 24, a cardiac arrest happened, and then there was 24, including bystander and pro responders that were in the area at the immediate time. They responded to the patient's side. They were able to get there, defibrillate the patient, and got pulses back prior to EMS arrival, and he was taken to the hospital and cathed, and ultimately was sitting up talking to his family by the end of that night. So there's also, already positive stories there. There's been well over 100 alerts already. I think at least 2 or 3 here in the city of Blair already since the Pulse Point app came out in February. So we're hoping to just continue to build this piece of it along with the collaborative, just working with all of our other partners trying to improve cardiac arrest.
Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, but for example, I'm not a professional medical person whatsoever. If I do have the app, I haven't gone in and put in my level. There's different levels as to what my response would be, correct? So my response would just be regular CPR in a public place, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Great point. Thanks for clarifying that. So yes, bystanders are alerted to public cardiac arrest. So anytime, like a Walmart or, like I said, CHI Center, those kinds of public locations, you will get an alert to your phone if you're within a quarter of a mile of that cardiac arrest. The next levels then are what we call verified responders and then pro responders. Verified are like healthcare workers, doctors, nurses. That's where Chief Kinsey's police officers are also registered in there. They get alerts to private residences. So obviously through just safety for the community and stuff like that, we can't send private resident alerts to every single buddy. We wish we could. That's kind of back to where that subscribing to an AED in your neighborhood may help, because you would get the alert to your neighbor. So that's the piece that we're trying to work on and improve that piece of it. But yes, you're exactly right. So a cardiac arrest in a public location, you would get an alert if you're within a quarter of a mile of that cardiac arrest. And then the pro responders, which would be police and fire, we get that additional level, which just gives us CAD information as well, which is door codes and things that we would get on our normal other app responses, so that we have a little more information. So.
And then with the AED app, that is something that's very simple, correct? And once you download it, if you see one, take a picture of it, and you can register it. If it's already registered,
Yep.
so be it, but if it's not, now it's in the system.
That's correct. I do believe you have to create a login. You have to create an account and then go in there, and then, yes, it's absolutely easy. You can go in there. It also allows you to co-locate like bleeding control kits, Narcan kits, Epi. So any of those other public safety kits that are found around in different places now. Our world is becoming more dynamic, so we're trying to be a little more prepared all the time too. So you're able to co-locate those as well. So yeah, you can go in there and, like I said, use it as a contest on vacation and see how many you can find that aren't in the app. Like we've mentioned, PulsePoint is a nationwide nationwide app. Both of them are free to download, so there's no cost to downloading the app and going on there. So
Wish I just downloaded it.
awesome.
But it gave me on the Apple phone to show alerts only while using the app. And obviously, you're not going to have the app up and running. Is there a way, I still get the alerts even though
That's a great question. I think it needs to be enabled all the time.
It did give me that option.
I think if you go into your notifications potentially, yeah, yep. And what I'll say too, I have Apple, so I'm more familiar with that, but sometimes the Android phones have issues with that exact thing there, and it continues to alert you. There's a settings. I'm not a tech person when it comes to that, but just so you know that there is a little bit of a nuance to that. So.
Any other questions?
And we have some flyers and stuff here that we'll leave, and I gave Jake one that has QR codes and stuff on it too, so you can scan, so we'll leave any of that information in. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Excellent program. Community safety is paramount, and whatever we can do to take care of our neighbors is wonderful. Do you want the board? Yes.
Amy Clausen, 2514 College Drive, and I'm also the president of the Blair Volunteer Fire and Rescue,
You spell your last name.
CLAUSEN.
Thank you.
Also have a problem saying it. And I am going to ask that the city consider using some of our Keno funds to support the Pulse Point app in our community. It costs a lot of money, and thank you to all the fundraising that was done to get this going in our Tri-County area, but it costs money every year to keep this app running. So I would love to see the city of Blair contribute some funds from our Keno funds to go towards this, to keep this running for many years to come. Like you said, it has already gone off several times in Blair. We've used it, so we'd like to keep it going.
Good suggestion.
So Bill taking notes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public?
Daryl Bosiger, Boesiger at 2246 Crestwood Drive. I'm always leery of creating apps on my phone because I'm a little worried about security. And I don't know what kind of information they need when I go to this app. But there's so much hacking going on. I hope that there's good security on this thing so that someone doesn't look you up and go to your place or whatever it is. Anyway, that's my concern about using the security of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Either one of you want to respond to that?
Sure.
Or? Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, so that's a great point. The Red Respond, the Pulse Point the Red app, Pulse Point Respond, does not require you to put in any information. So you just go in and then you would follow Tri-County. Probably the easiest thing, as much as I hate to say it, is to just in there in your search bar, search Omaha, and Tri-County will pop up in there. So there's no personal information that you put into that app. The Pulse Point AED one does require you to put in a username and password to just create your account so that when you input those AEDs, that comes to an administrator like myself who can go look at it and say, yep, the picture's good, the location's good, and we can approve it, and then that's when it gets published to the app. So I believe, Pulse Point has a lot of security measures and stuff in place as far as that. Again, I'm not a tech person, but I feel like it's a pretty safe app. The Red app for sure is 100% safe, so.
And I did go into the setting, it looks like it's already set to notify at all times. So
Yeah,
even
yep.
though it says, well, the app is open, it looks like it's still gonna notify me even if it's.
Perfect. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good question.
Chad.
Mm.
Any other comments from the public? Having none. Mr. Green. Always got to be.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up a little bit on the conversation about AEDs, do want you to know that thanks to Jake, our public safety officer, as well as Mark Wolf, our facilities manager, we have been upgrading all of our AEDs at all of our public facilities. So we recently contracted with Cintas. One of the issues that we've had in the past has been that batteries get old, pads wear out, they lose their warranty period. So we've subscribed for all of our facilities now for a kind of a basically monthly check. They'll go around, verify that everything's working properly, and replace all that equipment when it needs to. All of our police officers in their vehicles have an AED that travels with them. All of our leadership now on public works has an AED that travels with them as well. So we're being very proactive in trying to make sure that AEDs are located around town. So Jake, make sure they all get registered. All right, just a reminder to you that spring is here. We were fortunate to have a very mild winter, and so that was good on the city's budget. But as we move into spring, a lot is beginning to happen outside, and a lot of development is coming. So just a reminder that I think April and May is going to be very, very busy, both at the Planning Commission and then coming before you. One of the key things that's going to keep us busy as well, I didn't bring my red notebook over, but it's sitting over there. We are in the beginning of probably the most important planning process that a municipality goes through, and that's the comprehensive plan process. So we had 9 different statements of qualifications that were received last week. We will make sure that those get posted online for all of you, as well as any residents that want to look at them, starting tomorrow. The staff is going through all 9 of these. We have the goal by Friday to whittle that down to 3 that we're going to be recommending be the finalists, and those finalists then will be coming for interviews before the council. And so just a reminder that on the 5th Tuesday of this month, 3 weeks from tonight, March 31st, starting at 6 o'clock, will be the first of the 3 different interviews. And so we'll have 3 of the different firms that had submitted those SOQs. They'll have 30 minutes to make a presentation, 15 minutes per question, 15-minute transition before the next entity gets up. And then the goal is the very first meeting in April for us to receive any public comment from those who visited. And then the council will have an opportunity to discuss that night and select the one firm that we want to go forward with. So should be a very, very important planning year for us moving forward. Any questions that you have for me?